Okay, we'll call the October 20th, 2022 meeting of the Merced County Association of Governments Board of Directors to order. Begin with Joy. Joy's going to do the roll call. She's going to do the invocation, and she's going to lead us in the pledge. Joy, turn it over to you.
Director Aguilar. Director Kale.
Here.
Espinosa. Director Lewis.
Here.
Director Hope.
Here.
Director McDaniel. Director Nagy.
Here.
Director Pereira.
Here.
Director Pedroso.
Here.
Director Silvera.
Present.
Chair Serrato.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
When you're ready.
Right behind you, Marla. Oh, the invocation is this way. Sorry, Marla.
We're doing the
Oh,
invocation.
would you, okay, sorry.
Would you like to bow your head? Thank you, Lord. We thank you for having our elected officials and those gathered in town who are leaders. We ask for your wisdom, for your direction for this meeting, and we thank you for the dedication and the care that those attending give, and we thank you for your blessings. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Joy. Takes us to agenda item 2, which is the approval of the agenda. Any discussion, debate on this, or motion?
Mr. Chair, due to a conflict a little bit later on, I do have to be on the road by 4:30, so I was wondering if we could move action item 9C to follow right below item 6.
Okay, so we'd have Dan's presentations on rail, and then before informational items, we'd hear 9C out of order.
Yeah.
Is everybody okay with that? Yep. Acknowledge we can do that.
Move to approve.
Got a motion from Director Pereira.
Second.
Second from Vice Chair Pedroso. Anybody opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Takes us to item 3, which is public comment. Anyone from the public here for any public comment? Public comment is available either in advance of or during the meeting. It will be limited to 3 minutes per person, limited to non-agenda items. Anybody from the public here for public comment? It takes us to agenda item 4, which is our Citizens Advisory Committee report. Mr. Jack.
Thank you. Well, staff presented two MCAG and TJPA actions, information, and discussion items to the Citizens Advisory Committee. All action items were approved as presented by staff. Authorization, see, there were items that generated discussion, included one, authorization to apply for the Public Benefit Grant Program for the purchase of new alternative fuel vehicles through the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District. The committee discussed future use of the electric vehicles and charging station needs with supporting infrastructure. The next item was to adopt congestion mitigation air quality policy update and release call for projects. 1, the committee discussed scoring for the project listed, cost efficiency of projects, and policy updates. The next item was approved for the fiscal year 22-23 overall work program, amendment number 1. The committee discussed the need for signalization and widening of Pioneer Road in Los Banos. Other points of interest was that ends my report. Any questions or comments?
Questions for Jack?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your work. Takes us on to usually the high point of the agenda, which is agenda item 5, the Caltrans report, where we all get to complain to poor Dennis and Marlon. Gentlemen, what do you have for us this month?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the board. It's good to see everybody, Executive Director Stacy Guzman. Appreciate the opportunity of being here in person to provide a Caltrans report. Of course, Marlon always joins me, and he has a few items he'd like to update your board with. So I'll try to keep mine short and follow up with some other emails through Stacy, any other information you guys may need from us. But I'd like to first start with an update on our Clean California efforts that's happening. I know that Merced County has a local beautification project that was awarded, which is great. I also want to notify and let everybody know, if you didn't know, there's a second round of $100 million for Clean California for local beautification projects. There's actually a workshop that's has been scheduled on November 3rd to kind of talk about the guidelines again, the applications, and call for projects, which will start this January 2023. So another great opportunity to compete for Clean California funding to help, again, beautification of all our public right-of-way. The other update on Clean California is that we've been asked, the department from the governor to hold a day of action in Clean California, and that day of action is really going to be a statewide effort talking about not just all the things we've been doing over the last year, but also talk more and emphasis on litter abatement, again, through whether it's our litter pickup crews, which we have here in the city of actually Merced, and other areas in the county. Along with that, I appreciate the partnership we've been having. I know that we held, at least if we haven't, we'd like to hold a free dump day coordination with the landfill here to see how we can coordinate that. And everything, again, is going to be happening statewide all on the same day. The actual day that we're shooting for is not set in stone, but it's going to be right now the month of March of 2023. So there's time for great planning on that. And another effort that we're going to be pushing is the public education on litter. So there is a campaign out there going on right now with Caltrans statewide on litter and how we should be a little bit more educated on how we can address litter in a more sustainable way in the future. So that's one update. The other update is our broadband middle mile network efforts. Again, Caltrans is really proud to be part of this initiative, and where we are going to be installing high-speed internet fiber in our infrastructure, and there's 10,000 miles planned across the state. And I know that in our district, in Merced County, we have a little bit over 200 miles planned on different routes. We do have a broadband coordinator that's working with all our counties and our partners. If there's any questions on that, again, we'll pass on the name and the contact information if you're interested in those specific locations. We do have projects that are out to bid right now. District 10 has a construction management general contractor project that's out for bidding right now, and then it includes portions of Merced, just FYI. Also, our headquarters office, through the efforts of different districts, we've also put out to bid just this last Friday and Monday 5 large job order contracts. And I can't tell you how many thousands of miles that's planned on that, those 5 job order contracts, but it is out to bid right now. We're hoping to get participation from the contractors and participation from small businesses. This 10,000 miles right now is planned for $3.25 billion that we have allocated for it. So a lot of great opportunities. Again, serving the communities and providing high-speed rail for areas that don't have it. I think it's a great initiative for California. The other thing I wanted to mention, our new director, Tavares, sent out an email to our local partners. I know that Some of you may or may have gotten it, but it's an external survey and it's feedback on Caltrans as a whole. And I also will send out a link to that survey. So anyone of the general public, especially our partners, are more than welcome to complete that survey. I know that your executive director, Stacy, was kind enough to let me know that she completed that survey. I'm not sure how long it took, Stacy, but hopefully it didn't take very long. A minute. So again, we really appreciate the feedback that we get from all of you. So I wanted to mention that. And then lastly, I haven't forgotten the last time I attended your board meeting, a request to bring our director down here and meet with the board. I'm working with Stacy, and we just talked even yesterday to see if we can get a tour for our director and our chief deputy, Mike Heaver, to come down here. And we're very interested in seeing your inland port and the efforts there. I know there's, I think, 1.3 or $3 billion of the governor's for freight and port improvements that are out there for call for projects. And I'm not sure if the county or the inland port project is looking for additional funding, but there is dollars out there for freight and ports alike. So just wanted to show that, and I'm looking forward to bring our director down here, get to see your county, get to see the very important projects that you have, and get his support as well for state and federal funding. I will stop there and ask if Marlon, for the few items that he would like to share. And of course, at the end, we'll take all the questions. We may not have all the answers, but we'll take all the questions with us.
And it's the November 3rd event? When and where is that?
Which one?
You mentioned an event on November 3rd.
Oh, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear enough. November 3rd at 1 o'clock, there's a Clean California local beautification workshop. And it's located on cleancalifornia.com. It's on that website. We'll send you guys the link. Again, we'll send it through Stacy to get it to your board members so you can pass that on to whoever wants to participate. It's going to help whoever is going to apply. They know the guidelines, they know what to put together in your application, and more likely hope to see you guys being successful on this second cycle. Hopefully that was clear. Okay.
Chris.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Mr. Director. Thank you, board members, Madam Director. And I do have a couple of additional items I would like to share with the board today. Dennis mentioned a whole lot, but I'll try and add on a few things. One of them being more funding opportunities. And I want to start off with the federal funding that our state is giving, or the state is receiving for our expansion of our electric vehicle charging network. California, we just released a electric vehicle infrastructure program. Well, this is actually through the U.S. Department of Energy and Transportation, but there's $56 million available of funding for charging station installation throughout the state. And this is federal funding, of course, provided by the IJA, which is the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. But California is going to be spending approximately $384 million over the next 5 years. And we plan to deploy 250,000 public and shared EV charging stations by 2025. So it's a big deal. And in our district, we are planning to hopefully utilize some of that funding that's coming from the state. And we are looking actively for partnerships with all of our D10 counties, including Merced County. We think this is a great opportunity. So we look forward to discussing this further and, finding out if there's any partnerships that we can make with the county and associated cities. We also have our climate adaptation planning grants program. We do have a workshop coming up, and I just wanted to let you guys know that's next Tuesday, the 25th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And this is, as I probably mentioned before, part of a $50 million augmentation to our Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program. This is to address climate change, and we're very excited about this money again, and we're hoping that Merced County may be interested in this. Please do reach out to myself if you'd like details about the workshop or any information regarding the Adaptation Planning Grant Program. Also want to quickly mention, as part of this will all be part of our District 10 Sustainability Plan, which we're currently working on, and we hope to complete that by Q3 of this fiscal year. That is definitely a big part of that, of the EV charging component as well as the climate adaptation. Quickly, I just want to give a update on our Route 99 corridor plan. We are currently working with our headquarters procurement team, and we're hoping to get our contract advertised out to bid in the very near future and hoping to expedite that. So that's where we're at, but we're still working with headquarters on the plan development, and hopefully we'll get that going very shortly. And in terms of action items, I know that we've received some previously. We did have some maintenance teams going out on 59, as well as on 33, based on some suggestions that were made previously. But again, I'll continue to ask the board if you guys have any challenges, concerns that you guys see out and about in the county, please do let us know. We're happy to address that in a timely manner. That concludes my comments. I'll pass it back to Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Dennis. Any questions, comments, anything for the two gentlemen from Caltrain?
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, I live on 59, and your crews have been working on it and doing really, really good work, cleaning up the trees that are along the sides, and anyways, it just looks good, and the folks out in Snelling have mentioned it, so I figured I'd share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dennis, I want you to hear this. I reached out to Marlon earlier this week on the parks, the clean parks, which we won one of those, and I think you mentioned a little bit, but just the responsiveness, putting them in contact with our staff, our grant writer, connected us with the right person to get good information, and had some questions in round one. We received a grant, and was there going to be any challenges for us receiving a grant on the second round, and those questions were answered quickly. So Marlon, I appreciate your attention to the detail, and really within a day we had the answers that we needed, so that's much appreciated.
Anyone else?
Come on, this is Caltrans, don't let it all be.
I told Marlon that as soon as we leave here, we're gonna go check out the other sites that you mentioned and see it firsthand. So,
okay.
So we can take care of it, and I know what I'm talking about when I talk to our crews.
Yeah, and then it's right at Turlock Road, so that heads you home.
Yeah, so we already talked about.
I do.
Yes.
There's a huge pothole coming off of 152 going onto Palm in Dos Palos.
This is a different pothole. Right.
It's a pothole off of your guys' stuff, so not off of Dos Palos and stuff. But yeah, if you turn, like you're gonna go to Las Banas and you're turning left.
Okay.
It's, well, whatever.
Yeah.
This way. It's big, and I hit it every day because you gotta slow down because people are coming up behind you, and it's kind of a fast turn, and it's right where you slow down. So it's right as you turn. It's right on the highway part.
Okay. Do you have the southbound or northbound?
It's going from Fresno to Las Banas, so.
Yeah, so she's westbound.
Westbound.
Turning south.
Westbound, going
South.
south
Yeah, 152.
from 152. Just FYI.
Thank you.
So we'll take care of that.
It's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. We want to take care of that right away.
You're doing well. The biggest complaint's a pothole.
I know, it's a big pothole. I could plant a flower in it if you want, and then maybe you could go around it, but.
April flowers.
Anybody else? Vice Chair Pedrosa. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate your work and your time. Takes us to item 6, which is Mr. Dan Levitt, the Valley Rail Expansion Program presentation. Dan.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. Appreciate this opportunity to give you an update. It's a real exciting time for passenger rail in Merced County. And I was here last week, here again in person today. It's been a while. But you're going to be seeing a lot more in the next couple of years. We got a lot going on. and we're really pleased to be at this point. And I first just want to thank you for all the support that you've given to our efforts over the years, and we look forward to continue to work with you to deliver really exciting passenger rail for this area. So I've got a PowerPoint that I wanted to run through. Hopefully. Just that, I do represent two agencies, the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission and San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. The Rail Commission is the owner-operator of the ACE Rail Service. The JPA is the managing agency for the San Joaquins. And this slide is, the first slide here is showing the San Joaquins route. I think most of you are familiar with the San Joaquins that served the state for decades. We took over the management in 2015, and you are one of our member agencies for this. The service goes from Oakland and Sacramento all the way down to Bakersfield, shown in orange on the screen. It also has an extensive throughway bus network that takes passengers throughout California, shown in the green and blue lines on this figure. Pre-pandemic, we were carrying about 1.1 million passengers a year. The service has actually done pretty well during the pandemic. We're currently at about 75% of our normal ridership, and we're down still one round trip. We're looking to bring that round trip back next year. Go to the next slide. There you go. This slide shows you the routing for the ACE rail service as it currently is today. Between Stockton and San Jose. ACE has been running now for 24 years, and we run 4 round trips during peak periods, during weekdays. And this service, with the San Joaquins, is mostly intercity service. This one is really focused on commute service from the Northern Valley and even the Tri-Valley area into the Silicon Valley, it's our biggest market. Pre-pandemic, we were carrying about 1.5 million passengers. Ridership has been slower to come back on the ACE service, largely because the Silicon Valley businesses have not yet brought back their people into their offices yet, even on a 2 to 3 day basis. We're expecting that to happen in the next several months, and we expect ridership to go up accordingly. Go to the next slide. This figure really shows you what we call our Valley Rail Expansion Program, and it's a joint program between the two services. It's to extend ACE up to Sacramento and down to Merced, and to expand the amount of service we have on the San Joaquin service to Sacramento and to the Bay Area. A minute longer.
Sorry. We're trying to figure out how to make it big.
That's okay.
It's going on the wrong TV, I think.
Need to wait for a second?
You need to switch, Mary Michael? Just so we can make it bigger. Sorry, Dan.
That's all right.
I always have that problem. I have multiple screens and you share it, but I don't presentation mode, the one that stays. And then the one that stays.
You're talking French to me.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
So it basically, it's the user end that you're seeing, and what it's doing is it's projecting the full screen on her screen. So now it'll be on. There you go.
Yeah.
There's your mind.
Oh,
Success
success was short-lived.
That's wrong, Ed. Do your deal.
All right. Thanks, Christine.
Her mind's there. My mind is. A different,
There you go.
Said that out loud.
So over the last 5 years or so, we've gotten about $1.4 billion of funds for this program. Most of that is state funding, and we are expecting the first new service to begin at the end of 2024, both from Ceres to the Bay Area and from the Thomas to the Bay Area. For the route going up north from Stockton to Sacramento, we will be on what's currently a lightly used UP subdivision called the Sacramento subdivision. We will need to do improvements to that line. It also does not have stations, so we're building all new stations along that line. Go to the next slide. It shows the routing down from Lathrop down to Merced, focusing more on the Union Pacific line, which is the ACE expansion, but also showing to the east of that, the BNSF line, which is in gray. So the UP is showing green and in purple. For the green portion from Ceres to Lathrop, that is the portion we have fully funded. We are working towards completing the final design and starting construction next year, and again, starting initial service, the first train running by the end of 2024. For the section from Ceres to Merced, we are working to get the funding to be able to complete that section. It's going to be double tracking all the way from Lathrop all the way down to Merced. And we do run on free track. So this is a partnership between UP and our agencies. And we are currently working to complete the funding for the next leg, which is from Ceres to Turlock. We did receive a TRCP grant for $57 million in the last round. We've got, we're working with Caltrans, who, thank you Caltrans for doing a joint application with us, and Caltrans will actually be submitting a TCEP, $40 million for the next leg there. And then we also have a federal grant that's also out for $66.7 million. So we're working our way down. We'll continue to work down until we get the funding to get the service all the way down to Merced. So, and we are also working on getting funding for double tracking the PNSF line to add more frequencies to the San Joaquin service as well. Next slide. This figure really shows how our Valley Rail program integrates with future high-speed rail, particularly between Merced and Bakersfield, with what they're now calling the early operating segment between Merced and Bakersfield. And we've got really great news this year with high-speed rail getting the $4.2 billion in the remaining Prop 1A funds to be able to move forward with bringing high-speed rail to Merced. And that has really enabled us as well to continue with this partnership with them to really connect both of our services, ACE and San Joaquin, to high-speed rail in Merced at a multimodal downtown hub station. I should note too that my agency on the JPA side is expected to be the operating agency for interim service with high-speed rail between Merced and Bakersfield. So the next slide. This just shows you more closely the connection at Merced. It's a little tricky because San Joaquin's run on the BNSF, whereas ACE and high-speed rail are along the UP corridor. ACE is actually in the UP right-of-way, sharing tracks, whereas high-speed rail is just to the south of the UP corridor. So we do need to have a new connection for the San Joaquin's to bring the service from the BNSF over to the UP corridor, going up and over the UP tracks, and then coming to an elevated station in downtown Merced. And the great news for you today, I mean, we are looking to all three of these come together at the location where the city wants the station to be, which would have its westernmost point at R Street. This is about 6 blocks north from where high-speed rail had originally cleared the station. And again, the good news is high-speed rail is doing the work simultaneously as we're going to be doing our work to be able to get the clearance to have the station at the same place. And so we're having this great multimodal hub station, which could help with future trans-oriented development and better connect the Merced Transpo Center as well. We just got today approval to move forward with the environmental and the design work for this project. We got $5.5 million of state funds. That's the beginning. We're going to need to get the funding to actually construct this, but first we got to do the environmental clearance and move forward with the design. And over the next couple of years, we'll be looking to get the funding for this project. Next slide. This just shows you how, again, how our services connect in, but really showing statewide. We're not just with our rail connections to the north, but if you see in this figure, our thruway buses with the San Joaquin's will connect that Merced to Bakersfield segment really with the rest of California. So this is not an isolated infrastructure that's being built. This is fully connected in throughout California, and we will show success here, and then that will allow high-speed rail to continue to grow to the Bay Area and Southern California. Next slide. So I'm just going to kind of walk through where we are in terms of the phasing. We can't implement this all at once, and this figure here really shows sort of the existing services. Each of the lines there is depicting a round trip. The purple ones are the ACE service, and the blue is the San Joaquin's. This is sort of the existing baseline service. You go to the next slide. So by 2024, by the end of 2024, we are looking to initiate new service with one new round trip with ACE between Ceres and San Jose, and then additionally extend one of our existing round trips to Natomas, so we'll go from Natomas to San Jose, and we have new stations at Antigua, at Modesto, and at Ceres, as well as in Sacramento area at Elk Grove, Midtown, and at Thomas. So the next slide. 2025, 2 more ACE round trips going up from Ceres. These ones go from Ceres all the way up to Thomas and come back, and they're timed so that with the new North Lathrop Station transfer station implemented by 2025, you'd be able, if you want to go to the Bay Area, you could transfer on a train that's heading to Sacramento at North Lathrop to the Bay Area. So we can passengers be able to go to either the Bay Area or Sacramento on these trains. And then we do have 1 intercity train from Stockton to Sacramento as well that would connect one of the San Joaquin trains going from Oakland to Bakersfield. So the next slide. By the end of 2027, we would look to have the extension from Ceres to Turlock completed, and then also adding in new San Joaquin service, 1 round trip between Fresno and Sacramento, and 1 additional round trip between Stockton and Sacramento, and those would connect to the San Joaquin Street Station at a new labor facility that we have there. Next slide. And then this is sort of the big ending here with right before High Speed Rail starts operating in 2030, and that their current schedule is saying by the end of 2030, we'd be looking to provide significantly new capacity to make those connections for the high-speed rail trains, and they're expecting about 18 round trips a day. And we're trying to meet those with either San Joaquin's train or an ACE train. So we're expecting by 2030 to have 12 round trips on the BNSF. Today, BN7 does 5 more round trips. 3 of those would go to Sacramento, 1 additional one to the Bay Area. We would also, and that includes having the Mid-C connection completed. So we're meeting platform to platform with high-speed rail. In addition, if you look on the ACE line, we extend ACE all the way down to Merced with new stations at Livingston, Atwater, and Merced. And then we would be adding 3 additional round trips, 2 to the Bay Area. 2 of those would go to Union City and connect with BART, and then 1 of them would go to Sacramento. And then this figure, we're also showing a future extension from Sacramento all the way to Chico. We have a partnership that planning work is underway with SACOG in Butte County, as well as Yuba and Sutter counties as well. The next slide. So the next steps, key right now is to get the environmental completed for the Mid-C project. We need to then come and also the next 6 months be working with you and other local regional partners in discussing the ACE O&M funding for service expansion. We are working to complete the final design for the funded program and begin construction next year. And then also in the next several years, securing additional capital funds for the expanded Valley Rail program. And that is my presentation, and open up to any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan? Comment? Director Pereira?
Yeah, well, thank you for coming down and kind of giving us an update. You know, our local guys kind of give us, but it's just kind of neat to see it all kind of in order and succession, how it's happening. The slide that you had where you show the UP and the BNSF connecting outside of Merced.
Can we go back to that one? Is that all right?
It's the Mid-C and
MITC. Yeah,
MITC.
keep going back.
One more.
One more.
There you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
So part of the inland port plan also has a connection needed. And so I don't know if there's a way to get inland port, infrastructure money to help with that project.
It'd be great to find partners. We're looking to work with the city along 59 corridor for that. That does follow a portion of 59 corridor where an existing spur is. But we're looking to partner with the city in terms of their plans for expansion there to work together to make sure this all works. And so, yeah, any place we can find partnerships for funding is a good thing.
Well, that's going to be obviously an increasingly important corridor with expanding that and rail as well. Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your work and time. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Take care of agenda item 6. Director McDaniel, we moved earlier, we decided to move item 9C, which is the JPA renewal discussion up. So we're going to hear that now. It's the main event. Everybody ready? Everybody got their boxing gloves on? So, agenda item 9C. Obviously been a lot of talk, a lot of discussion about this, and I'll turn it over to Emily, Stacy, or
I can just kind of do the quick intro to the item and open it up to discussion if you're okay with that, Mr. Chair. So, the item, I'll provide a little bit of background. This is listed as an action item in the event the board, we are seeking, direction on next steps. So per the governing board's direction in July, staff released the third amended and restated joint powers agreement to, the jurisdictions, for action on September 20th. So back in July, there was a 60-day extension to the comment period, with the deadline being Monday, September 19th, and the direction was to, upon the conclusion of that comment period, to issue the draft document out to the jurisdictions for execution. The deadline of the 19th, there were no comments received at that time. Following the distribution of the document to the jurisdictions, there was correspondence received that comments were forthcoming, and those were received on Thursday, September 22nd. So where we are at this point is the draft document that the board directed staff to distribute following the conclusion of the previous comment period is out and has been distributed. And then there is attached to your packet are comments that were received after that deadline. So staff, or actually I will turn it to legal counsel, is seeking direction from the board on next steps.
Emily?
Well, I mean, the board has several options here. I know that many of you probably have feelings about this particular agenda item, so I think the best thing to do is to hear some of those thoughts. But I think at the end of the day, this is a cooperative agreement, a cooperative agency, and we should cooperate to some extent in negotiating the new agreement. So to that end, I would suggest either, I don't normally make suggestions to you about what direction you should take, but this event I will, to either have a meeting of legal counsels for all of the jurisdictions and MCAG, or to possibly to appoint a special committee of this board and have a similar type of meeting, including some members of this board, since you were involved in the process of preparing the draft agreement. Leave it to you to decide how you.
Okay. Do we have, I'm not sure if there's going to be any, obviously, it seems like people are here for that item, how much input? Do you want to just do a kind of initial questions, comments, discussion, and then turn it over for any public input?
We do have one public comment that was received.
Okay.
When that, yeah, but other than that, that's.
Let's start with the initial discussion,
yep.
Open it up, and then just like we do it.
Yep, the regular items.
Okay.
Like, I'm going to be real with everybody and honest, as I struggle with, we did come together. We did come together for a retreat where we went through all these items, and then we had a deadline that we set, and the deadline was missed. And I get it. I do understand, as my colleagues that sit on this board, I'm a full-time elected official. This is what my job is every day, and so for that reason, maybe, you know, I'm more involved in these things. The way that I understand it is that two agencies adopt it, and then it goes into place. And really, there's part of me that says, well, yeah, you missed the deadline. I still struggle with that a little bit. But ultimately, I don't think it does us any good. And trying to get past the whole, I'm going to just say, there's a perception out there that some people might think that you know, the county's driving something or whatever. But that at the same time, I'll say that I got this perception that it's, you know, the cities, all 6 of the cities met. Yet if we're going to say that it's a cooperative agreement, then why wasn't the county's council involved in those meetings? So I'm not a lawyer. I think that some of the things on here are probably, they're not deal breakers for me. You know, there's one specific one that it was pointed out in item 5 on the memo that was sent by the cities, you know, about indemnification amendments. I think that stuff, if we're trying to make a good document, that should probably be cleaned up. That didn't cause me any heartburn. I'm going to give my opinions, because ultimately I'm going to make what I think would be a good recommendation at the end. Is it expiring in 10 years? I think I struggle with that, because it's just constantly under the threat of here we go, 10 years flies by. I think something along the lines of really having a hard discussion on, we know that we have a tax measure in place that is going to be here for the next 25 years, and then you have to look at that thing just doesn't end on one day, and then everything goes away. There's going to be years probably to unwind that. But my guess is that the board's going to probably, the county, the cities are going to go back and ask for an extension of Measure V, you know what I mean, to do it again. And so some kind of longer term, so there's not that kind of that threat there, because I do worry about, it is a cooperative agreement, and ultimately I think that if somebody was so pissed off that they wanted out, you ultimately could file, you could get out. There is a clause for you to get out, but I don't think anybody wants to do that. I also don't want one agency to be able to hold hostage an agreement. So there's a lot of different things in there, but I think that really I'm not the lawyer here, and we all have counsels. And my recommendation would be for a period of time, because it's apparently very important to everybody, right? And I want everybody to express that level of importance, and with some kind of timeline that we can agree to, where all the councils kind of get together and try to hash this stuff out and present us something that we can get everybody to pass. And if that doesn't happen, then I'm willing to go to the two. But if it's a scenario where two agencies decide to vote for it, and the other, what would that be? There's 7 of us, so that would be 5 agencies don't decide to vote for it, or some mix of that. What kind of message does that send forward, moving forward? You already kind of like started. I want to get past that, because ultimately we're going to change. Elected bodies are going to, but these agencies have to work together. If you guys haven't figured out, the state is using COGS, which were designed to be transportation agencies originally. They're pushing more and more stuff. We're taking on housing things. So there's a lot more stuff that's involved in it, and it's the one place where we all have a seat at the table, right? And I get it. I know that there used to be challenges on the makeup of the board. I don't think you're ever going to get to a point where the makeup of this board is going to change. I think that, quite honestly, the conversations that happen on some of the east side, west side, stuff of the past, look at what just happened in the last census. The west side is growing at a faster pace than the east side is. We're all growing, but we're growing faster. You fast forward 10 years from now, I think you're going to even see more representation on the west side. So I know I'm kind of going on and on, but I think that push this back to councils. And then the request is, as my colleagues, I'm going to look at some of my city members here. You guys need to be engaged with your cities, and they need to be. You guys need to be engaged with your members. You have a member that represents you on this board. They need to be bringing this stuff up, because I mean, we sat we did a retreat. We sat in there. We went over this stuff line by line, and what I remember. And I think the other ones that were there will remember the same thing, is we came out of there, it wasn't like a narrow consensus. I believed it to be like a unanimous consensus on this is how we were moving forward. And for whatever reason, we're at this point that it's causing some people heartache and concern, but what I don't want to happen is here we are, June of 2023, and now all of a sudden we're up against this timeline. The MCAG is not going to fold up and go away on July 1st of 2023 if we don't get an agreement. But I don't want that holding over our heads. And so that would be my recommendation: is set up a meeting with all the councils, figure this stuff out, and everybody has to come into it with an open mind and say, you're not going to get everything, but can we make common sense arguments to come up with things that we can all live with? And then really what I'd like to see is that group of the 7 councils make a recommendation to us, because it is all the member agencies that are involved in it, and then we go with it. But again, on a realistic timeline. And I know some cities are in different positions where they don't have a full council right now, and it's going to take an election for them to get a full council, and they probably would like to have that full council there to be a part of it. But that would be my recommendation, and I'd love to hear my colleagues' comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm kind of coming in at the tail end of this, but one of the things that I see is this is a legal document. It's binding. And so for me, I would have preferred that this organization along with its directors, have invited all of their city attorneys and the county attorneys in, because as Mr. Silvera said, none of us are attorneys. And so we should have had their opinion in at the front end of this deal. And therefore, a lot of this stuff would have been hashed out and worked out, and we wouldn't be sitting here today trying to work these issues out. So I think that's one of the big things that I have. Certainly I have other comments, but at this time, I'm going to defer, if he chooses to do so, to my city attorney to make comments in regards to some of the issues that are in this document. But I think that's something that this organization, one of the 7 members that are a part of this board, and I realize the county has 5 people that sit up here, but you're just one member. There are 6 other members that have a voice. And in regards to the 2 votes for, passing a document, to me, that's a bit unconstitutional. I'm just a layperson, but that's not a majority. And so I don't see that as workable for all of the cities. But those are the 2. And in regards to the 10 years, yes, there's a likelihood that none of us will be sitting here in 10 years, with the exception of some of the staff people for MCAG. But
not even have high-speed rail built.
I don't see that 10-year turnaround as something that's really an issue, because when the board works together good and everybody's involved and you've got your legal staff, when you have legal issues going forward, those things are resolved and worked out. So that shouldn't really be the driving force, trying to change that to something in perpetuity. I don't have an issue with the 10 years coming back and renewing a document, because there may be some things that need to be changed, and we just need to be flexible for that. So I think, coming in at this and just having been at some of the meetings as alternatives for the mayor, it's how you work together and plan things for the future. And when you've got legal documents like this, I think it's really important to bring your legal staff in early.
Thank you. Brand new, but speaks like she's been here before. Director McCann.
Thank you, and thank you for everybody being here. Quite frankly, I took a Saturday out of my life to work on this document, and everybody was invited. City managers, attorneys, everybody's invited, staff, and I was there all day on a Saturday, away from my family. And quite frankly, right now we're sitting here discussing this because of staff. This is the tail wagging the dog. We're the board, we're the elected officials, we're the ones who have to answer to our constituents. We put this together. As a group, all of us were there. Those who choose not to be there, that was on them. So I have an issue with the tail wagging the dog. This is driven by our elected body, not by staff. They were late, 2 days late. We set the date, we extended the date. So I look around at my colleagues, those of you who sat there on that Saturday. I didn't want to be there, but it was important to me. It was important to my constituents that we were there to discuss this. And here we are again today. And we're here because of the staff. We made a decision then. We made a decision on the deadline, this elected body right here. And we're sitting here being wagged by the tail, continuing to discuss this. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, just a follow-up comment on that statement. when I hear Mr. McDaniel indicate about his constituents, and I understand that. But again, I want to remind this board that he's one member of one of the 7, you know, it's the supervisors are one block of people regarding this document. So, I've gone to many retreats and in a whole day. I've got one to go to next month for 2 days. And so, yes, it can be very upsetting when something needs to be changed, but this is how government works sometimes. And work out and iron out things that
Disagree.
but that's.
We're elected.
You're elected to represent your district. You've got 5, 6 cities here
I sit
that
on
are
this board.
elected.
This board makes that decision, and we made it.
Have 6 other cities that represent here as well. So, again, we
They're
are
represented at
at
that meeting.
a crossroads.
Here, keep this letters.
And I think we're at a point where we need to just back up a little bit and take some time and hear out the cities. I know that it was 2 days late. I would hope that we're not going to die on the cross for 2 days. And even though it was extended 2 times, during this COVID period, it could sometimes be difficult to get people together and be able to cooperate and hash something out. Fortunately for the board of supervisors, maybe you were able to do that. But I'm glad at this point, at least, that we're able to have a response to this document and perhaps be able to work something out. Thank you.
Next.
I just a couple of follow-up comments. I just want to remind everybody that it was a unanimous decision of this board to do the 60-day extension. So everybody knew about it. Where the disconnect is, and I will encourage everybody, is that if it truly is that important for you, then whether you agree that we should have set a deadline or didn't set a deadline, that's what happened. And the comments did come in late. And that's why we're in here. Had those comments come in before, they would have been addressed before. But we were adamant, because it just, like, there's been times since I've been here where it feels like it's stall tactics. It's stall tactics, and I really truly believe that there was things that were done that were just kind of stall tactics. And again, it's just like to keep pushing us closer and closer to that date. And that's what I don't want. And so I'm willing to, I get my colleagues, we were all there. Your cities were there. Now, how that information got distributed to your councils, how that got distributed to your city managers, I don't know how to, I wasn't there. But it was, everybody was there. And I understand that, you know, former Mayor Faria was the one who sat it during that meeting. He was part of those discussions, and he's not here now. But again, that's why the suggestion that I made is have councils with a certain amount. It seems to be, again, very important to everybody. I want everybody to have a voice in it. I just wish that you would have been that concerned to have that voice before the deadline. That's my frustration. But in the spirit of cooperation, and at the end of the day, we're all going to keep working together on very important issues. I would much rather have us have a document that gets all 7 member agencies to vote for it than one where you get 2 or 3 that vote for it and the other ones are upset and don't, because I think that's just going to set a tone moving forward that we're constantly going to be having issues over. So for a shorter period of time, I'm willing to go down the road with everybody, try to work out what I seem to think are really minor issues, and let's move something forward here that we all can get behind and support. But again, with a limited amount of time, I'm not willing to let this thing go to where we're up against a June 2023 deadline of worrying about an expire, because at that point, then I'm going to just look at it. For me, my own perspective would be, look, if you don't want to get on board, you have options. And I will say, in my conversations with some of my city partners, they've never expressed to me that they don't want to be a part of this sport. And so I don't think that's the case here, but we got to get past this, because this is the reason why I used to say that my least favorite meeting of the month was MCAG meetings, and then I felt like we kind of got good for a while. But if this is to continue, where it's going to always be this battle where we're not really trying to do what's best for all of our constituents, and it seems more of like a battle of us against them, and however that, whether it's an east side, west side, city, county, whatever, it just gets frustrating, because I really feel that we have a lot better, things that we should be focusing our efforts on.
Vice Chair Pedrosa?
Yeah, so I do want to say, I mean, I'm kind of torn on this. I wasn't able to go to the retreat. I was tested positive for COVID, so I couldn't go. So that's why I wasn't there. And I appreciate everybody that was there to spend their day going over this. And so I agree with what Darren's saying. You know, I think this is driven by us as elected. It's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to make sure that we get something done that is right. As a former teacher, I hated late work and I hated excuses. But unfortunately, stuff happens, and so I think, and I'm with Scotty on this. I think we should, with a subcommittee, with council, get in a room and hash this out, because there's some of the stuff on there that, I mean, you go through it, the only one the 10 years, I can't agree to it, but I think it's more important to have an agreement done moving forward so that we don't get up to that deadline. I really want to get this deal done, so at least we have a document that people can rely on, and we know. It doesn't seem like there's any cities that don't want to be a part of it. It seems like everybody still wants to be a part of it and there's ways they can opt out if they want to. It's very clear inside the document. I've read it multiple times. I've read the settlement. I've read the comments. I think it's important that if it's really, I mean, in talking with our council, one of the things, the advice, and one of the things he told me was that, you know, we've had, as a board, we've had a good working relationship up here. We've been able to get stuff done. We've been able to work together, and I don't want to see this cause any consternation. So if we have to continue this discussion by getting council in the room, by having a subcommittee of people from this board to discuss some of these issues, at least at the end of the day, we can say everybody's had an opportunity. They've had the opportunity, we extended it, I agree with it, but if it's really important, and it seems to be really important, I think that we should do it. So that's just my comment.
So I spent my Saturday there too, and I'm not a paid individual to do that. And in that retreat, I was brand new to this committee. You guys all came up and said, "Thank God you're here." You know, and so I agreed to that, not knowing what our council was going to be. And I'm sorry, Darren, but I need that rag, that council rag, running that dog down the road. And I agree with you guys that we should do this, a get council, maybe a subcommittee, and do it quick. I don't know if I'll be here next month, or the following month. Pat doesn't know if he's going to be here. Deborah doesn't know if she's going to be here. So, I mean, we're sitting here, and then we have brand new councils in some areas and city managers. And so I need our council to say, this is what is appropriate and what we need to do. So I agree, but let's just get it done quickly.
Just a follow-up comment, because I was thinking about this. You know, I understand that the board is one, but when you say, you know, there's other cities, but if you think about it, I represent Merced County, District 2. District 2 is the city of Merced. So I communicate with the city of Merced. Darren represents part of Merced, Lloyd represents part of Merced, so it's not that we don't take that into consideration. And so all of that goes into consideration when we're making these decisions. So to say that, you know, we're just doing this for the county, we have to look at all of our constituents who are city residents, but then also, I have a very small portion of unincorporated areas, but Lloyd's got a lot more, Scotty's got a lot, Aaron has some, Rodrigo's is, got a lot. And so they have to look at all of that. So yes, we represent one as a county, but we also represent our cities. And to Scotty's point also is that, and to John, we don't know what was said to the city managers or the CEO or whatever from whom, at what point and what time about what was going on. We have a new CEO. And so we have to rely on this membership to go out and tell and explain to the members of their council or the leadership in their buildings what's going on. And if you're not doing that, that's really on you, not on this entire board. I know I've talked to our CEO multiple times about it. I know I've had conversations with Mr. Serrato about it multiple times. And so I think it's one of those things that if it's something that we have to do, like I said, I agree with Scotty, but I think that we should get this done as quickly as possible, set up a meeting or set up some type of group with council, with membership from this board, and have this done, I would say at least by December. I don't think that, and no more comments. No more comments, nothing. This is what we're gonna work on. And that's it. I'm not okay with accepting the late stuff. I'm not okay with that. But we work on this with council and then bring it back and have an agreement done.
Okay. Anybody else? I think, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I want to tell John that you and I are both going to be back. Think positive. You're not up for election, correct? So you didn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
So she'll be back too. I want to get that on there. I know, huh?
That was more dramatic.
I just want to talk from my own perspective, so to speak. And I don't want to seem like I'm throwing an ex-city manager under the bus, but I kind of am, I guess, but I don't mean to be. But the document was released to the TRB February 17th. I remember our former city manager coming back, and first thing he said, oh, we're going to need more time to talk about this. So we're up against this deadline, and I said, well, we better get working on it then. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, but at first it was a 60-day, then there was another 60-day extension, and then there was another 60-day extension. Is that not correct?
The original proposal that came from the retreat was that it would be a 60-day review, but before the board took action to release it, the agreement was to extend that to 120 days.
Okay, and then
So it is, yeah, it was
108.
essentially 120 days and then 60.
Well, of course, our city manager left in April, but he never did anything with it. He never brought it in front of council. He never brought it in front of the city attorney. And so from my own perspective, the first time it came in front of our council was at my request Tuesday night. And our city attorney didn't even know anything about it until just a couple of weeks ago. And we have an interim, and it was all new to him. So he kind of was going with the flow of the TRB and so forth. And so I just wonder how many councils, because besides me, nobody else on my council really knew anything about this. And so I asked them for direction. How should we go forward with this? And so my council, not myself, but in deference to my council, They are in favor of a little more time with a deadline on it. That's what they're in favor of. But I think this is a good idea that's floating around that, hey, let's get the legal guys in there. Because I don't know the difference between the different types of arbitration, you know, and the legalese and so forth. But I like that idea. Get them in there, but have like a 30-day time limit, because this is dadgum important for all of us. And I think the reason it was 2 cities is because it was assumed back in 1967 that the 5 supervisors were going to vote for it, and with 2 cities, that was a majority, I believe. I do not know that to be a fact. That's just in my own head, but that might have been where that came from, maybe. And I'm not opposed to having it more than that, but I am opposed to having it unanimous, because there's nothing in our country ever that has to be voted unanimous to make a pass. 2/3 is a high threshold. So if the direction is that we turn this over to our legal teams, but I would think at the end of that, when it comes back here, we take, you know, do what their proposal is. But then when it goes to the cities, my question is, what happens then? The cities have to ratify it. So is that the only action they have, is yes or no? I mean, there's no more response time, or at that point, nobody can say, well, I'd like to see this in there or that in there. It's just, this is what it is, yay or nay. I don't know the answer.
I mean, it could be anything, but ideally you would take, the cities and the county would take the agreement when it's in a form that everyone can agree to, so that it is adopted, and so that staff can recommend that it be adopted.
Okay. But if Justine gets it and we have a due turnover in our city council and it goes 3-5 against,
yeah, it's always a possibility.
If it's unanimous, that stops the whole JPA.
Right now?
Because the 3 council members that aren't even on the board of directors.
If the proposed language in one of the comments submitted by the cities were to be included, then yes, you're correct.
Okay. That's all I have.
That is not what's in the current JPA agreement.
Right. Yep. That's all I have. Just a question.
I can go if you want.
I just don't want to keep coming to a meeting and having this brought up all the time. We've been working together great. Everything we do when we come into the MCAG, where we have our MCAG hat on, and we're supposed to make collective decisions for the projects that are brought forth to us. Regardless of, I'm from Dos Palace, or you're from Hilmar, or you're from Los Banos, or wherever. We're supposed to work together and come up with common ground for everyone. And so all of this stuff is beyond me. I just want to come to the meetings. I don't want to be on another subcommittee. I'm a teacher. You know how many committees I have. I have meetings after meetings. I just think that we need to agree on something and move forward and stop hashing over stuff that's happened over and over and over again. But that's just my opinion. So.
I think the truth that kind of unbeknownst to us, and despite all the nonsense and all the talk back and forth, is we're that close, right? When you look at the comments the city sent back, it's like it's that close. A couple cleanup items, languages. So I think the issue too is, and the simple reality is, this board is not what creates MCAG. This board is not what creates the GPA. It's the 7 entities that. So we could have some retreat and have the greatest retreat and plan all this stuff and have a great time and draft the damn Constitution, but it doesn't matter because it's the jurisdictions that do it. So point being, I mean, I think long way of saying is 2 points. Ultimately, the jurisdictions are the ones that create this JPA. The jurisdictions are the ones that empower it. This board obviously makes a lot of important decisions. This board has its authority, but this isn't it. I mean, it's the board of supervisors, it's the city council of Justine, of Atwater. Those are the ones that have to approve it. So again, I think we're that close. I think obviously too, and we all get, being elected, that there's elected work, which is more big picture policy oriented, and there's staff work. And and that's the legal work and the legalese of this document is not, I mean, I've been a lawyer 15 years. I wouldn't trust myself for a second drafting this. I wouldn't trust any of you guys either to do it, as much as I like all you. But, so I think the lawyers need to be involved. The lawyers of the jurisdictions need to be involved, and we take responsibility to whatever, point, or whatever extent responsibilities are, so we're not getting that involved. But just kind of, again, a long way of saying, I think we set the big picture things, those big picture items are board composition. I think we've rallied around that. There have been disagreement in the past about that, but I think, we're all in line that the board composition should remain the same. I think, the term is something that maybe this board has something to weigh in on, but after that, it's we get the lawyers to work and go. And, so, I mean, I think some of those comments were well taken. At 10, it might be a little short. I think, something that matches with Measure B is kind of nice. 25 that would hit it pretty much right there. Just my 2 cents. But I don't even know I don't know if we need a subcommittee. I don't know if we need another date. I think we get the lawyers, get everybody working on it. If anybody from here wants to show up and be involved, they're welcome to. And then after that, release it to the cities and release it to the county and see what happens. I think we're that close. And I think, and realistically too, and politically, if we just force it on the jurisdictions right now, I know we send this to my council and we bluntly tell my council what's going on. We're straight up. We take the advice of legal counsel. It's not going to get approved. And I think other cities are probably in that similar situation as well. So I think it's much easier. We're that close. Iron out some details, send a unanimous document with the blessing of all the attorneys, of all the city managers, of all of us.
Who's going to pay for the attorney to look over this?
City Merced pays for its attorney, City of Dallas pays for its attorney.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So do we have to pay for our attorney to look over this?
You run that risk if you don't. I mean, I think, yeah.
Well, that was something we talked about at the retreat, and it was, nobody wanted to pay their attorney.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I know. I'm just saying
yeah.
The cities didn't want to pay the attorney. That was pretty amazing.
Well, but too, let's be real, Pat, it's especially, we have a county council, we have a whole office full of them that are being paid either whether they're working on this or working on something else. For the smaller jurisdictions, and I know specifically like Dos Palace, their attorney is outside counsel that they hire, right? And I know the city of Los Angeles has, so it's a little bit.
Or if you trust, you don't have to, but you run that risk. But I think the city legal, it's incumbent upon every jurisdiction to have good legal advice.
And I that's where I said, I think, December, I don't know, I would actually, up for the city of Los Angeles, I know that they're going through some turmoil over there with, their mayor left them, so they're waiting to get a new elected mayor. And probably, I'm guessing if Los Angeles follows its tradition, the mayor is usually their representative on MCAG. And so it might give them a little bit of time, if we call it at the January meeting, to have something back by then. But then at the same time, I trust that my council is going to go there and do the best job possible representing Merced County, and then he's going to advise me and would be in contact with me. So I don't know that I need to, go and really hash it out, but ultimately I would hope that he's advising me so that it informs my decision.
Does it even need to come back to us? Is that a question too? Can it be worked on and then released to the jurisdictions?
No. The only hard part I have is the term, to be honest with you, and I like what you brought up. Can this body agree on the term to match Measure B? I think if we agree on the term, comments have been made, let's hash those out.
Measure B, if we're talking about matching to Measure B, you need to provide for a few extra years after the termination of Measure B to wrap up all of the business related to it.
Right.
And not doing a JPA renewal while trying to do a measure renewal at the same time.
Right, no, but I'm just thinking that, look, we're that close.
Yes.
So, and I think we agree on almost everything. I think the term was the one that everybody got a little wonky on, because that's what highlighted to me was the 10-year term. I'm like, well, we're going to be negotiating that, and we still have Measure B in front of us. I think we should, and, Mr. Chair, you did bring it up. You said, Measure B, I like that. And everything else is real close. Why can't we just come together on it?
Good with I like the Measure B term.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We'll
So can we agree on the term? Do you want to?
Yeah,
I'll make a motion for us to, do a 2-year extension off of Measure B.
flat 30.
Yeah.
You did
Flat 30?
30 years.
Yeah, okay, so that'll be my motion.
52, and then Measure B expires in 47.
To be sure that none of us are gonna.
Yeah, well,
Right, so I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
okay. But, I mean, ultimately, it's up to the,
So there's a first and a second for the term.
yes. Yeah, we'll get there.
After the motion?
No, we'll do, the motions, we'll hold off on the motion. You know, we'll wait.
Well, there is a first and a second on the floor.
Yeah.
But we can take comments. Yeah.
This would be a collective recommendation from the board. But again, this is an agreement of the jurisdiction. They would have to agree with that as well. So just cautioning you, it's a recommendation, not
To put into the agreement, yeah,
to take it to the negotiation.
correct. Correct.
So we're clear that this is a recommendation to take to the negotiating team with the attorney, not concrete in the body of the agreement.
This board has no, as far as I'm concerned, no authority it's the county board of supervisors and the
In the
city.
current agreement, we actually do have that authority. That's kind of the contention.
I mean, ultimately, members of this board do have the authority because they will vote on it at jurisdictional level. So yes, members of this board do have this authority. Anything coming out of this board is a recommendation to take to the negotiating table. We will take it from
All right, we said to their initial piece, I guess. Public comment?
And Mr. Chair, I really do want to hear the comment, and I don't want to rush anybody, but I will be leaving in 14 minutes.
Gotcha. Okay.
I do have to get on.
All right. All right.
And Jared, just,
Yes, sir, up there, please. Thank you.
Frank Solorio, City Attorney for City Atwater. I don't know all the background and the chronology, so I apologize to the extent that for some that feel as though there's been some purposeful delay or neglect. I can just tell you that I think the idea to take a brief time out to have a conversation where the lawyers can get in the room. I agree with a lot of what's being said as far as 95% of this is legalese. There's maybe one policy point, which I don't have a stake in. None of the attorneys should have a stake in, but there should be a point but there are some other things that I think are good and basic and sound legal practice that we should follow and actually would be beneficial for everybody. And I think, I can only speak for myself, and I know that all 6 cities, we submitted that comment letter, albeit 2 days late, and I think that was a consensus document. There were a lot of things that were left on the editing table, and these were modest and measured requests. And so I would just entreat the board to consider that, take it to heart. I appreciate the comments from everybody. I think this has been a good discussion. We have no interest in torpedoing it. We just want to make sure that there's some sound ADR and other things in the contract. We do think there's some terminological cleanups that could be made to improve the document, to make it sing better. And I will just say that the current approach that says 2 of the agencies execute it to approve it, our position is that's legally fatal, not possible. The current agreement requires 8 of the 11 board, the supermajority of the directors, to approve any amendment. This would be an amended agreement. Therefore, to ratify it by just 2 agencies, which at most would be 6 directors if you assume all county members, it would essentially create a super minority, and the contract currently requires a super majority. So I don't want to get there. I don't think that's the point. We already went through arbitration a year and a half ago. We don't want to do that again. I think the key is, the big picture here is we have a small delta that's left. And I just want to have an opportunity. I know other city attorneys that I've spoken with just want to have an opportunity to clean up the document for the betterment of everybody. And again, I think there's just maybe one small policy issue that frankly doesn't concern legal. So that's just my request to this board.
What's the policy issue?
The term, probably the term, I'm guessing. Yeah. But like I said, there's ADR, there's cleanup, there's other things just to make the document, I think, better for everybody.
What's ADR?
Alternative dispute resolution. So.
Next speaker.
Mr. Chair, board members, for those who don't know me, I'm the city attorney for the city of Los Banos. Bill Vaughn, I've been sitting in that chair for the last 20 years. I think the last time I appeared before this board, I didn't have gray hair. I think Mayor Amabile was the chair, Jeff Brown was sitting in Stacey Guzman's seat, and I think Robert Hayden was sitting in Emily's seat. And a testament to those leaders of our community at the time for having the foresight to keep this association together. I want to stress to you that the city of Los Banos wants to be a good partner and continue to be the cooperative partner with the rest of the agencies within the county we're set. It's unfortunate that the series of events that led us to today have happened, but they have happened. One of the things I think that possibly the board is overlooking is that a JPA is a member document. It's not a board document. This board did not create MCAG. The 7 members created MCAG. This JPA agreement creates this board. And so when Mr. McDaniel saying the tail's wagging the dog, I agree with him, except I have a different perspective on that. And the dog is the 7 members, the tail is this board. This JPA agreement creates this board. Once the board is created through this JPA agreement, you implement on behalf of the 7 members, all types of policy, all types of important cooperative things that are done within the county. But this is kind of the constitution by which you operate, and to not consider each member's comments in terms of that document, I believe is a bit of a mistake. It's not the members' strategy to derail this for any reason other than to make this a better document for all of the entities. As Frank said, a lot of deal points were left on the floor, the cutting floor, through the discussions with the cities. We think the comments we've made to you are important. We think there are legal issues involved in this document in terms of indemnification, in terms of amending this agreement at a future time. The term is important in that it really takes the cities out of the loop for the next, what I'm hearing, in a 30-year period of time. So I don't believe that there is a problem in kind of slowing the roll, allowing the members to be part of this process. I think the board is an important part of the process, but the 7 members are the ones that are really, in my opinion, driving this train for this document. I think, speaking for the city of Los Banos, we're entirely amenable to working with MCAG board and council to come up with a document that meets the needs of all of the cities. I don't foresee a holdout. I foresee a spirited discussion and a cooperative resolution to some of what I consider to be fairly minor issues and cleanup issues that can be dealt with in the interest of all of the groups. So, let you know, the city of Los Banos wants to cooperate in that effort. It just simply wants a voice at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public, not on the board?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm going to read a comment that was submitted to you yesterday via email. Dear MCAG Board, my name is Jose Moran, council member for the city of Livingston. My public comment is in regards to agenda item 9C, the JPA renewal. There are several concerns in regards to this renewal proposal, which is being brought before you. I became aware of this particular item, the JPA agreement, from your previous meeting held on July 21st, which, by the way, at some points the meeting became a little heated. That is what caught my attention. As I looked into the item of discussion, I realized that some of the proposed revisions or additions to this agreement were not in what I believe was the best interest of the city of Livingston. Some of the items of concern are the following. Page 342, Article 4, quote, recommend that a term should no longer be specified in the agreement. Section 4.2, I believe there should be at least a 10-year term. Article 5.1, language change recommendation, which are changed from, quote, service area to, quote, boundaries. Quote, MCAG's initial boundary shall be the county of Merced and may include other areas for the benefit of MCAG and its members, close quote. What does this mean? Areas outside of Merced County for the benefit of MCAG. 7.4.a, red line text added, quote, the rotation schedule, who becomes chair next may be amended at the discretion of the board from time to time. Does this mean that if a particular group with a majority can change who would be the chair next to fit their liking? Are we forgetting about equity? Other concerns include Article 9.1, withdrawal from MCAG, Section 9.1.b, the change of 6 months to 12 months, Section 9.2, the cost of withdrawal from MCAG, and the last section, 13.6, arbitration. With all due respect, most of these recommendations seem to be one-sided and not in favor of the cities represented within MCAG. My question is this agreement being designed to benefit all or a few of those entities who belong to MCAG? In my opinion, it should benefit all. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Jose A. Moran, Council Member.
Thank you very much. All right, anyone else? Back to the board for further comment and direction.
We have the motion on the floor.
Okay. So a motion and a second to make a recommendation to the negotiating team for a 30-year term. Okay.
Can I get clarification on including, should we include in the motion the direction to have legal counsel confer, I mean, just make it all in one motion, because I know it's implied, but.
To accept all the comments.
Right, well, because we have, there's been a discussion of just the legal counsels getting together and meeting on it, and then there was also some that
Take it
said.
step by step. This
Okay.
one first, this one's small, this
Okay.
one's very narrow.
Okay, got it.
This is
Okay.
very narrow. So, is there anybody opposed to that recommendation? Okay, everybody's in favor? All right. And then second would be, I think, just the broader conversation, next steps. Emily Scotty had proposed, it seems like that general consensus kind of around what they, a lot of other people kind of rallied behind it, kind of the general thought of getting the lawyers involved, getting to work, ironing everything out.
But accepting the comments that were brought in and only further discussion of those comments.
Correct. No other comments.
No other comments to be submitted.
And that's what you mean by negotiating, right?
That's what I mean by negotiating, right.
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, the city attorney from Water, had made a comment about there was some language in this document that needs to be cleared up and brought up to date, that was a bit old and, saw that it would be beneficial to, the organization. So I think with that, you know, that it might be wise to have the attorneys look at those, you know, some of the language in there to bring it up to date so that it's more amenable, for the organization to operate.
Those are the comments he submitted.
Yeah.
Those are in the,
Those were in there.
Josh.
I just wanted to, I agree that we should have the attorneys, just get the attorneys in there. We don't need to be in there, but I do think it needs to come back to us. So that it doesn't just go to the member agencies, we have the opportunity. But again, the 5 points that were brought up, I say accept them, but nothing else. And clean up the language like you said, I'm fine with that, but nothing else, no more.
I just think that's a little heavy-handed because.
Well, I mean, if you read number 5, it gives them, it doesn't narrow them to the first 4. Number 5, it says various other legal updates and other clarifications throughout the document.
Which is fine. It's just kind of cleaning up the language. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm saying no more comments. We have the 5. These are the 5.
So then, Mr. respond through the chair, Supervisor, or Director Pedrosa, is just, I don't want to hamstring my legal counsel, MCAG's legal counsel, or any of the other legal counsels. That what if there's just something like there's an it there and it should have been an I?
And I'm fine with that. I'm saying, well, what I'm saying is we have the comments. I'm saying these comments are discussed. If you have to change an it or something like that, do that. I'm not saying that, and that's on there. Just consider those and then bring it, is what I'm saying. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I just think that's a little heavy-handed, again.
Yeah, but we had all this time.
I mean, we had so much time to get this done.
So
No,
would it be agreeable to the board if the comments were served as a framework for the discussion? Item 5 is very broad. It will allow for discussion of quite a few issues. I suspect it will cover most, if not all, of what the issues are.
That's fine.
All right.
Do we need that in the form of a motion, or is it staff direction? Direction is given?
Director Pratt?
Never mind.
We will make sure of that. We will make sure that all councils for all jurisdictions are invited and involved in the discussion. Yes.
And if I could just, before I leave, my one last comment is I would encourage all the board members to make it known, because not all councils are here. I think this is of utmost importance, that like coming back and say, and I get it, everybody's busy, but coming back and saying, oh, well, we weren't able to all meet. If you're not going to meet at the table, if it's not that important for you to meet, then I don't know what more we can do.
Okay. Is that enough?
Do we have a time limit?
December, January?
That's meeting, that's what we're talking about.
Aren't you guys all at a conference next week?
Yeah.
The next meeting. Next meeting.
Oh, he'll be on Zoom.
Shoot. By December. The thing is, there's all the elections coming up too.
I think December. Until January. There's potential for there to be
Multiple meetings.
different, exactly. That's fine.
I mean, that's right there.
But January,
that's there.
At the latest.
If they're done before and can get
Bring it in November. if they're done.
December agenda, that's fine. If
Yes.
not, January.
Yeah, we have momentum right now. People need to keep working on it. Everybody's familiar with it.
I think we all have, I think all of the legal counsels that are here in the room today hear you regarding the time. It was pointed out to me earlier today that the amount of time that we have left until the current agreement expires is the same as the amount of time that it has been since it was submitted to the jurisdiction. So, or since the board retreat, one of those, I'm not sure. So we understand there's a timeline. We will meet as soon as possible to work on these issues.
All right. Anything else, Emily?
I think I have the direction from the board.
Yeah, I defer to Emily if she feels clear in direction. We're good.
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Motion to allow Supervisor Silvera to leave.
And I think.
What? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
5, 6, 7, yeah. We've got action items.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sure you don't want to stay? I mean, grab a water and a cookie for the road.
Now.
All right. Onward. Agenda item 7, informational items. Items included for informational purposes, no presentation was made by staff and with board members have questions. Does anybody want to pull any of the informational items for separate discussion?
I take that back to their elected.
Informational items, anybody? Okay. On to item 8, which is the consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon with one vote unless.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Anybody opposed? All right. That passes unanimously. On to agenda item 9, Merced County Association of Governments action items. 9A is the CMAG policy update and release call for projects.
Hi, I believe
Little tiny ones that are in the little.
Hey, Ty.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, directors. So staff is requesting authorization from the board to release another CMAG call for projects. Before doing so, we're asking the board to adopt the updates to both the CMAG policies and to the Pioneer priority funding policy. The most important update, of course, is to the Pioneer funding priority. FHWA basically forbids the sub-allocation of like federal CMAQ funding to any project. So the policy basically sub-allocated CMAQ to Pioneer, and that's basically a no-no. So that's the major change to the CMAQ policy as well as to the Pioneer policy. So again, staff is requesting like, adoption of like the updates to the policies and authorization to release the next CMAQ call for projects.
Okay, thank you, Ty. Any questions? Questions for Ty? Public input on this item? Anybody? Got empty pretty quick. Any discussion or a motion?
Here, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Clarification. The CMAQ and the Pioneer policy, just, could he explain that briefly?
Sure, if I could. So the policy was adopted by the board to basically set aside like MCAG's discretionary funding. So that includes STIP, LPP, HIP, I'm sorry about the acronyms, and also 25% of CMAQ to the Pioneer Improvement Project. So I think in the last CMAQ cycle, which was like the spring of last year, 25% of the available CMAQ was basically committed to phase 1 of the Pioneer project, which is like the intersection improvement at Pioneer and Ortega-Lita. Since that time, FHWA has been coming down harder on regions that have sub-allocated federal CMAQ funding and have basically required regions to immediately prepare corrective actions so that they no longer do sub-allocations.
So, in short, in a layman's term for me, what's the expiration date on the CMAQ money for the Pioneer Corridor? And is it still going forward in phase 1? Is that what you're trying to?
No, the money that has been committed has already programmed. It doesn't change. So it's just like in this call for projects and future calls for projects, there's no set aside for Pioneer.
There's no set aside, you said?
Right. That's basically what the existing Pioneer funding priority policy does. It sets aside 25% of CMAQ.
Okay, and then the expiration date on this, is there an or a date that it has to be fulfilled by? That money has to be programmed into the phase?
The existing funding doesn't really have an expiration date. Are you talking about the funding that was committed to phase 1?
Yes, for the Pioneer Corridor. Yeah.
I think Director Luce, if I could. So under the Pioneer policy, there are several funding types that have already been programmed to Pioneer, and each of those have different expenditure deadlines. Mm-hmm. So we Ty in particular work with Neuron and the staff to make sure that those are being expended on time. For the CMAQ, and what this item is that we are no longer able to take money off the top, as we identified in the policy, of the CMAQ funds and direct to Pioneer before we open the competitive process. We have to put all of the money in a competitive process, and then Pioneer and any other project can compete for it. So if the question is about an expenditure deadline for the CMAQ dollars, I'm not sure, but every pot of funding that is currently programmed to Pioneer under the policy right now will have a different expenditure cycle and deadline. So I don't know if that helps, but if you have any source in particular, or if you want to talk offline, I can give you those details.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Deborah, do you have any more comments?
Thank you.
Well, anybody else? All right, further discussion, motion? Thoughts? Anybody? Anyone have a motion?
Amazing. Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Director Hogue, Director Lewis. Anyone opposed? All in favor?
5.
Passes unanimously. Takes us to 9B, which is the approval of the 2022-23 overall work, Amendment 1 to the overall work program. Mr. Nutt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Proceed.
I guess the party's over. So,
No, there's still cookies.
well, that's why everybody's full of it, right? So this item is to amend our current year's budget 22-23 to carry over unspent PO with planning dollars and FTA 5303 money over, and additional money of $6,000 that we got from, for the SB1 money in a total of $303,000. So the way we're gonna spend the money is for SB1 funds, we're gonna do a multi-jurisdictional local road safety plan for the city of Atwater, Dos Palos, Christine, Livingston, Los Palos, and the city of Merced. And we're also gonna use, money to fund the Innovation Clean Transit Plan, which every transit agency has to have, it's called a rollout plan. How they're gonna go from zero emission buses, and they're gonna look at countywide where we need to install charging stations and all that. So that's what this plan is gonna do. And we're also gonna look at, transit consolidation study in our short range transit plan. It identifies that the Transit Joint Powers Authority and UC Merced to consolidate and be more efficient to avoid duplication of services. We're gonna put in $50,000 of the carryover fund, and the UC Merced will bring the other half. The last thing where the funds are gonna be spent is on Highway 99 study. As we know, there's no more, the state is trying to go away from a traditional Highway 99 widening project because of the cap tie. So what staff is looking to bring in a consultant to identify solutions to improve 99. So action is to amend the current year's budget to program $811,000 of PL, $85,000 of 5303, and $204,000 of SB1 money.
For multi-jurisdictional local road safety plan, zero emission buses, the 99 and the buses.
Yes, sir.
Any questions for Nutt? Discussion or a motion?
I'll move to approve. Sounds good to me.
Director Kale, would anybody like a second? Director? Second. Anybody opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Who seconded?
Kale, Nagy. 10A, Stacy, the procurement.
Wait, did we skip C?
Yeah, we did that.
Don't skip through that again.
You want to talk about it again?
Hey, what you're tired of talking about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Whoops.
Back to 9C.
Sorry.
Oh, you should have just played that off.
Everyone's a mulligan.
Ay. Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
For new discussion of agenda item 9C. All right, 10A, Stacy, this is lobbying services and a potential member dues increase.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is an update, as you recall, back in, I think it was June, we brought the discussion to this board, identifying the need to procure our federal lobbying contract. At that time, that was coming to an end this fall. At that time, we had proposed expanding our lobbying program to also include state services for the first time in at least as many years as I've been with the agency. But also the important discussion point there was that all of our lobbying contracts have to be, they are paid by our member dues. We don't have any other funds that are eligible to be used to pay for any kind of lobbying or advocacy. And through both the TRB and the board discussions, we got positive support to procure for both services. We have done that. We are at the tail end of our procurement process. Normally, we would be bringing a contract for authorization, but in this instance, because this is a commensurate increase to member dues, we wanted to pause before we got to that final step to bring a contract before the board and share the range of costs. We got 3 proposals, and again, we haven't issued a notice of intent to negotiate yet. We wanted to have this discussion because we wouldn't want to get to a point in the contract with a cost that the board and the jurisdictions could not be in support of. So we have on page 494 a range of basically the lowest combination of proposals in terms of cost and the highest combination of proposals. And I say combination because we procured it to be you can respond to just state services or federal, or both. And so we can kind of, pick and choose from that menu. But the estimate that we had provided that we thought this member dues increase could fall into is where we are. So the high end does exceed what we were anticipating, but you can see what that would be on 494. But we do have a number of options that would put us at the low end of that increase, which would ultimately go from $132,200 to $191,200. That would be the lowest increase, and the highest being from, instead of 191, being 321,000. This is just for information. This is just to, a point in time. This would be a commensurate increase to member dues. Next month, we will bring the conclusion of the procurement process with the recommendations from the committee, and then that would give you the exact number of what it would be. So this was just an opportunity for staff to take it back, look at it, have that discussion, and proceed forward.
Director McCain.
Yeah, so through this, with this lobbying effort that came forward, so we hire lobbyists so we can pay, so we basically, it's an ROI, return on investment. With what you saw and what was presented to you, do you feel confident in the groups that came before you? And
yes, and we can have a full kind of breakdown of the proposals in the scoring sheet. I think we were very fortunate that we had three very strong proposals. One was just for state, one was just, and then the other two were for state and federal. One was one firm, one had a combination of firms to do that. All three of them were excellent proposals. It makes the job hard, but it was a very solid proposal response that we got. All firms that we know and have worked with in some way or another, so we can't go wrong in that way.
because firms usually don't like to bid against each other, so that was interesting that we got 3 proposals.
Yes. So that's it, Mr. Chair. Last reminder, the members dues increase that would happen as part of this action would not, though, be enforced or wouldn't go into place until next fiscal year. MCAG, because of the cost savings during the pandemic of not traveling to Washington and what we would be paying for, would be able to pay the higher cost of this contract through the remainder of this fiscal year, giving jurisdictions time to budget appropriately for next fiscal year with these new numbers.
There's nothing, just discussion only.
This is just, we thought costs would be here. They are. We're going to move forward. We'll bring the contract next month.
Any further discussion?
Yeah. This is like one of those TV ads where the first 6 months is free and after.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time.
Your cable bill.
Yeah.
Your rate, and then.
But we'll lock you in for 5 years without any cost increase.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'm still paying for cassette decks that I ordered.
They were good ones.
They were good. Oh, yeah.
They were only a penny a piece, huh?
Yeah.
I got into that. You guys sitting prominently in your timeshare. Bill? All right, on to the next.
See, Matt's not old enough to know about the cassette.
That's not old.
8 tracks.
Indeed. REAP 2.0 funding priorities. Mick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. You've likely heard MCAG discuss the state's regional early action planning grant program of 2021, REAP 2.0. Under the program, MCAG is eligible for approximately $3.9 million in formula funding. This funding for planning and implementation projects that support infill housing development and reduce vehicle miles traveled. It's a somewhat flexible program. We're required to conduct outreach to develop our set of projects and programs that we propose use of the funds for. And MCAG is in the process of conducting this outreach. We're hosting a series of workshops, both in person and virtual, and an online survey this month. And we're asking interested stakeholders to weigh in on how they want to see this funding spent in the Merced region. And you should have received an email, came from Joy Young's email address on Monday, and it included some links and flyers for the workshops. We would really appreciate your help getting the word out about the workshops. There's one more virtual workshop tomorrow at noon, and an online survey. And then we had 3 in-person workshops yesterday, one in Livingston, Merced, and Los Banos. We had attendance at all the workshops, and we got some really great feedback on potential candidate projects for this funding. And I do want to apologize because I realize that the timing of some of the workshops isn't ideal. We were working on an extremely tight timeline from the state, and then working around some existing meetings, and then also we had translation or interpretation services for the workshops, so it was most cost effective to schedule all the workshops on one day. But the in-person workshops were just one component of the outreach we're doing. So I mentioned that there's a virtual workshop tomorrow at noon, and then also the online survey, which is really great for collecting the feedback that we're looking for. And just briefly, I want to summarize the feedback that we've received so far through discussions at the workshops and with local staff. It sounds like there are numerous housing infill projects and other infrastructure projects that could utilize this funding and fit with the program well. Local staff have also said that there is still a need for planning funding, specifically for the rezone following the housing element update, and then also for infrastructure planning. And the state has said that they really want to see this funding focused on implementation projects, just because there's been so much housing planning funding out there over the last few years. So we may propose 2 separate programs, a larger competitive pot of funding that's focused on implementation activities. We would develop the guidelines, scoring criteria, and applications early next year with your operation, and then issue the call for projects after that. And then a smaller set aside to sub-allocate to local jurisdictions for planning, whether that be your rezone or infrastructure planning. But regarding the next steps, we'll continue to conduct outreach through the rest of the month, and then integrate that feedback into a draft program framework outlining our proposed use of the funds, and that would come to you next month. It must undergo a 21-day public review period, and then MCAG will request at your December 15th meeting approval to submit our full application to the state for approval. And there's a deadline of December 31st to do all of this outreach and application. So, but just to wrap up, we really encourage you to take the survey. There's some flyers on the back table. And we would really appreciate your help spreading the word, or you can reach out to me at any time if you have specific feedback. But I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just going forward, a suggestion, if you want us to get it out, do it in a PNG or a JPEG, because that way we can take it right from our email and put it on our social media and get it out. Go to PDF, then we have to go another step, and a lot of times, you know, squirrel, look at it, and we move on.
Okay,
So if we have it like that, we can put it right to the social media.
Okay, that's great, so thank you.
Yeah.
Squirrel. Oh, that was just over my head, what you were talking about earlier. The
Oh, yeah.
format of-
Yeah. Not what I was talking about, but kind of.
All right, anyone else, any questions? Again, just discussion information.
And we start talking.
Everybody see that hand up there, or is that not a hand up?
James, have that?
I'm just flicking my pen.
Yeah, that hand up or flicking the pen. Okay, thank you, Meg. All right, on to 11, our Joint Powers Authority action items. Christine, who apparently has extensive taste, asking us to go down.
Yeah, no kidding.
Item 11A, which is the purchase of 5 buses for $710,000.
Wow.
Well, I know, but a full-size bus is $1 million, so 5 cutaways for that amount is the deal.
Do they have wheels?
Said every car salesman.
Hey, I'll always have a backup.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. The much anticipated staff report on the purchase of 5 cutaway buses in an amount not to exceed $710,355. So these vehicles are what we use on our paratransit, paratransit and microbus services. So this is doing some of our fleet replacement that is much needed. As you can imagine, we've had a number of delays with the buses that we have ordered. We have 7 of them on order. These are in addition to that, so these are 5 cutaways. We found a dealer that has E450 chassis that are readily available, so they're coming offline, so we're not getting into the specifications of them, like we can't customize them to the bus, but we will be able to do it aftermarket, so we will have all of our technologies and branding. These are 12 passengers with 2 wheelchairs and 8 passengers or 8 passengers with 4 wheelchairs, so depending on how many chairs you have, seats as well. These are much needed. Our vehicles have far exceeded our useful life, and we expected the 7 that we've ordered over a year ago. And so this will just help us get the fleet in a better condition to provide service, because right now we are suffering with, shortage of parts, and then the vehicles, because of their older age, are not performing as well as they have, which also increase our maintenance costs. So these vehicles are budgeted in this fiscal year's budget. We're utilizing $673,000 in LC-TOP, which is the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, funding that has been allocated by this board, as well as $37,289 in LTS from the Capital Reserve. That would complete this purchase, and we could have these vehicles as soon as the end of the year.
I'll move to accept it. Sorry.
Yes.
Are there any funds available out there from air quality control?
There isn't very much money for clean burning diesel, or for clean burning or gasoline.
Okay, so it's gasoline.
Yeah, these are going to be gasoline highways, but we have looked after grants like that. They're mostly available for electric buses.
Yes, they
and some of the infrastructure, but as far as diesel and
You've taken advantage of grants for a number of other items. You've had a number of other items recently.
Yeah, and the way the process kind of works is we budget these items in the budget, and that gives us authority to go after these grants. And so we say, we need to buy 8 buses or 13 buses, and 8 of them are fixture out and 5 of them are cutaway based on our fleet replacement plan, and we go after grants. And I believe that we submitted a grant application for, of the 7 that we have on order, 3 of those are being paid for by a grant. I'm looking at these. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 offset the use of our own funds when we get a grant, so this just gives us expenditure authority. And I did just want to add, since I think of you, Director Pereira, these 3 of these buses are going to be replacing larger buses in the fleet. We're getting the 5 smaller buses, but of the ones that they're replacing, we're going, I think 3 of them are going for a full size down to the paratransit size. I know you often have questions about right sizing our fleet, so.
Yeah. Yeah, so in past purchases, we've replaced small buses with larger buses, so this is going to do the reverse, replace large buses with small buses. According to my fleet plan, and then with our short-range transit plan, it identified how many vehicles we need for each type of service as we make the route changes. Did you have additional questions?
Yes. 2. One, are there hydrogen fuel cell buses that are available?
There are some pilot hydrogen cutaways that are available. One, Alternative Fuels actually is one of them. I've seen a demo out in Fresno, but I don't see them readily available. They're not on the bid.
Okay, but, can we look into, I would suggest we look into it, because the natural gas or the buses are not natural, compressed. Hydrogen fuel cell buses are eligible for grant funding from the air district. And to be honest with you, if you think about it going forward, we're going to dump a bunch of electric vehicles on a grid, that isn't going to work. And so I think we're probably better off to be working towards the hydrogen cell. There's some grant funding. There's going to be new hydrogen cell fuel stations built here in the valley. And so just kind of, I'm not suggesting we do something different here just for next time,
That's a great option for us to explore. And the plan that NAV brought before you in the budget amendment for the ICT plan, the Innovative Clean Transit, that's going to essentially give us our footprint to zero emission. And so that's going to be important for us to consider hydrogen and electric for limitations that you've stated.
And then my other question was, is this blueprint of the bus that's in our packet, is that the bus that we're looking at?
Yes, that's the layout.
So my question is, why would we want a third of the seats to be handicapped or wheelchair?
So if you see the dotted lines, those actually fold up. Fold out.
They can be either.
On page.
Oh, so there's seats that.
Yeah. On 504.
So that's 4 more seats.
Yeah, so it can be.
So 2 of them
with
can be
2
swapped.
wheelchair positions, or 8 with 4 wheelchair positions.
Yep, I missed that.
And we actually have a very high ridership in our wheelchair-bound passengers. And so we often have, more wheelchairs trying to get on a bus than can actually fit, and so then we have to send more buses, so it requires more resources. So we are actually seeing an uptick in wheelchair passengers, so, we are gonna, I think that this set of 5 will help us tremendously in not using so many vehicles for a single trip to a same destination.
Gotcha. Okay.
Measure B, free fares
So, did you have a motion?
I did.
Motion, move to approve. Oh,
Director, Daniel, is there a second?
yes.
Anybody opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. And B, zero emission bus park tools and training. Christine?
Yes, thank you. The item before you is requesting authorization to purchase zero-emission bus parts, tools, and training. These are going to be for our 5 battery electric buses from New Flyer. The amount will provide us with some training, tools, spare parts, and essentially PPE for our maintenance technicians. These are very high voltage vehicles, and without the proper training, tools, and PPE, it could be not very safe. And so these total about $200,000, and that's going to include driver training for these electric buses. We expect by the end of the year. And this is buses. So this is going to be coming out of the $1.1 million maintenance budget currently in the approved budget. So this is an additional money that we're seeking because First Transit passes through their maintenance expenses. We have a $1.1 million maintenance budget, and so it would be coming out of that. So it's not additional money into our budget, it's coming out of an existing budget, or existing line item within our approved budget.
Questions for Ms. Josh?
Do you expect these buses to break down quite a bit, or?
We do have some.
I'm sure planning on a lot of spare parts.
Well, I mean, we are
Brand new
experiencing a lot of delays with spare parts, and if you have, if the kingpin goes down, you need to order it, and
Right.
it's 3 months out, then that bus is sitting.
So you gotta have those in.
Yeah, we
You
want to
keep
have
those
them
in
supplied.
stock so that you can replace things instead of waiting until they break.
Yes, and actually, if we buy them now with the bus build, we get to save 10% than if we bought them aftermarket.
Oh, okay. Now, how much is driver's training?
The driver's training is
63,000.
somewhere under 60.
That's right. I read that, yeah. Okay.
And that's important because.
And how many
it's
drivers is that,
do
though? Is that
regenerative.
a whole bunch of drivers, or?
Eventually, it would be, well, it's kind of a train-the-trainer type of thing.
Oh,
So they would
okay.
train the road supervisors and a handful of drivers, and then as these buses start transferring routes, then they would start teaching the other drivers how to do that. So it's kind of a train-the-trainer type of thing.
And then maintenance has to know how to drive them also.
They have to know how to drive them. Well, I think the importance of the driver training is to teach them that regenerative braking, so that when they're braking, they're actually reproducing the electricity, so we're not completely draining it as we're moving.
Good, okay. Very good. Thank you very much.
And if you guys haven't seen the design, on page 511 is the concept for the wrap of the battery electric bus. Hopefully, you guys can see live in action there too.
Oh, yeah. Might as well be in Yosemite.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Kale and Nagy. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Nothing on action item 12, 13. These are our RWA action items. 13A, NOV is approaching the podium. Budget amendment for the $5.3 million in excess operating revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Christine continues to spend money, I keep scoring away. So this is, we're just. For 21-22, we have an excess revenue of $5.3 million for RWA. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna allocate that $5.3 million to capital and to fleet. So to our capital improvement, we're gonna put away $3.8 million, and to our fleet, we're gonna put $1.5 million, which makes that 5.3. This money is not gonna be encumbered right now. We will identify how this money is gonna be used through either budget amendments or in our budget process in 23-24 budget process. So that concludes this.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion Carrera and Nagy. Anyone opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Mel. Two.
Go count some more money.
I'll make some cookies. All right, 13B is the Alyssa Flores, personal property damage claim. And Christina.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, perfect. Yes, so on September 21st, there was an incident involving an employee from the regional waste site where he rear-ended the back of the bumper of the claimant. After investigating it, we do believe that the claim is valid, so we are actually recommending approval of this claim to pay out the claimant $1,251.41. Does anybody have any questions?
I do, I have a question. So
Sure.
if we pay out that claim, we're done with it?
We're done, yes.
Do you, do we take PNC together, the Travis, everybody okay with that? We'll take, she can discuss the Travis Johnson claim as well. I mean, we could have a motion on both. Sure.
Okay, so yes, so the Travis Johnson claim, that was back in June, but he came in and brought us the claim of a tire being popped because of material that was on the ground. It was a metal object that was kind of protruding out of the ground. And after doing some investigating on that, staff felt that he didn't do anything outside of the normal. He parked where he was told to park. And so we do feel that this claim is also valid for $200. And so we are recommending approval of that as well.
All right. Any questions for Christina or a motion? You have a $1,200 and...
The same question.
Yeah.
So once we pay that out, this claim is done?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, good. Because at the county, sometimes they try to linger them on. I just want to make sure it's...
Oh, my medical bills,
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah, no, nobody was making any of those claims, yeah.
It's theoretically possible that a person could make a second claim during the 6-month period, during the 6-month statute. However, for these types of claims that are property damage only, that's extremely doubtful. We have estimates for these claims. Would recommend it.
I will go approve.
Motion by Director Kale. Nate, with a cookie in his mouth.
Second.
Cookie munch. All right, anybody opposed? All right, both pass unanimously. Thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
14A, you guys put me up, I got a chair and it's JPA and it's 1383 all the time. Tell us about 1383.
Thank you. Welcome to Highway 59, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. Here to talk to you about 1383 as usual. Good news and bad news. Good news, this is probably the last time you're going to see me this year. Bad news is because we've kind of going to see you guys in February with a contract, and our negotiations have gone a little bit longer than we expected. We were hoping to bring those to the TRB next month. We met with the evaluation team just this week. They had some questions as well as we did about the proposals that we received, and so we're going back to the proposers for a little bit more information to clarify a few things, get a little bit more information from them, hopefully to bring those contracts back to the TRB in December. In your report there, it says we were coming back in November. We're going to try to bring those back to the TRB in December for them to see, bringing us back to the city of Merced, the county of Merced, and the city of Atwater, to your city councils and county board meetings to show you directly those contracts, get your approval of those, and you bringing your material to that facility, and then that will allow us to bring those back to you folks in February. If there's any questions about that? Oh, and we did follow up with the Little Hoover Commission. We were asked to follow up with them. We listened to those reports. They have finished all of their input. We're waiting on their report to come back. We're expecting that by the end of this year. So there'll be no changes or updates from the state affecting 1383 at this point.
If any of the recommendations are looked at, they'll be looked at by the governor or the Senate in 2023.
Okay.
Hey, if there's any questions, be happy to answer those.
Questions for Kyle? Again, just information and discussion only.
Correct.
Okay. No, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kyle.
14B, facility improvements, master plan. Highway 59 land.
Patrick gets the closeout.
Yeah, I'm the closer.
Like being the closer of an heat.
Nothing to get.
Yeah, no pressure.
Make it quick, right? Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm the Environmental Resource Manager here at RWA. And today I'll just be providing a status update on the master plan for the Highway 59 landfill. I'll walk through the real quick budget. The plan itself in 2 phases we're going to be following, and then wrap it up with the schedule. Thank you. Over the past several years, the board has authorized additional funds to various CIP accounts to pay for the master plan improvements. In total, $9.3 million has been previously authorized. Of that, around $800,000 has been spent on design and engineering, leaving about $8.5 million remaining. The master plan will consist of relocating infrastructure from the Valleyfield area over to near the current admin building and constructing a new admin building. We currently don't have enough funds to cover all of the improvements, so we're taking a phased approach to construction. First phase will focus on relocating the facilities from the Valleyfield area and paving of the compost road. So looking at this, the existing admin buildings on the lower right, that's where we are. And then I'll start in the upper left corner. We'll be installing some fuel tanks. VMB stands for Vehicle Maintenance Building. MRF storage is where we'll be transferring commingled recyclables. HHW stands for Household Hazardous Waste. And then in the middle, you see metals and tires, and then CEM, which is carpet, e-waste, and mattresses. All of that is kind of collectively known around here as R&R, Resource and Recovery Area. And then the future admin building would be in the lower left of this figure. In the next few slides, I'll highlight some of our existing facilities and show some renderings of the new facilities. So on the left here, you can see our current maintenance building. It's constructed 40 years ago, plus or minus, and is, as you can see, falling apart. And then on the right are a diesel and our gasoline fuel tanks. Those are nearing end of life. The household hazardous waste facility on the left, we're going to be reusing much of what you see here at the facilities relocated. And then the MRF transfer pad on the right will be replaced with a building in the master plan. So here's an overview of what the site will look like once phase 1 construction is completed. You can see everything's co-located and closer to our current operations, which will left just off screen. So this also will allow members of the public to conveniently drop off items in the R&R area, HHW, and then you can see there in the lower right our admin building. So the total cost estimate for phase 1 is $6.8 million, which can be paid for with the currently allocated funds. This is a rendering of the vehicle maintenance building. The new building is larger than our current building. Doesn't have any holes in it, and or at least no holes by design, not by design, excuse me. And we'll have pull-through access for equipment, house an office for our mechanic, and some much-needed indoor storage. Focus of phase 2 is constructing a new admin building. Our current admin building is a used modular building that was intended for short-term use.
Because we don't have full funding available for the new building, staff are coordinating some repairs to the existing building to make it last until we do. This is a rendering of the new admin building. The estimate for phase 2 is $7 million, about 90% of which is the new admin building. Do note that we are working on some alternate designs in order to bring this number down. Here's our estimated schedule. We expect to finalize the design and engineering phase 1 and get permitting started December of this year. The ISB would then go out in April next year with construction starting in June. As we're short on phase 2, we'll need to do a budget amendment to make up the difference in July of next year. And then permitting would follow in fiscal year 23-24, and then construction after that in 24-25. So this project's been a long time coming, and we're excited to finally break ground on it next year. That's it for my update. Thank you for your time, and we'll take any questions.
Questions? Yeah. Can you go back to the slide that shows the phase 1 layout? So how come the addition of so much parking lot?
So the future admin building will be going there in the lower left, and doing it all in one go. At least we actually do need to talk about this with our engineers in terms of phasing of the project and construction. But it's cheaper per square foot to lay out more paving in one go.
Yeah, I understand that part, but who's, I mean, so you're gonna have, what are you gonna, I mean,
what are we gonna do?
How come you need so many parking spaces, right?
Currently, we have our field crew, our positions that are working out in the field are parking in the gravel lot right now. I see next to this, Marty.
That's correct. As you can see in front of the existing building right there, pretty much 3/4 of those spots are already taken. If we have an event such as this, or if we have an HHW event, we're gonna need all that parking. Yeah.
That's also that's a good point, the event space.
Okay.
And the air board really likes it when we have more asphalt down, dust down.
Well, I know. But the RWA board doesn't like the extra expense. I mean, it just seems like a lot of increase, but I guess if you're gonna have, the people from vehicle maintenance are gonna be parking here and others.
And I'm assuming that you're gonna move Jerry's bench over to the new one afterwards, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
All right, anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Takes us to item 15, which is the much-awaited Stacy's speech.
Yeah, I'm going to be brief.
I thought Patrick was the last one.
I know.
He's the final.
I know. When I say I'm going to be brief, I know
Another
there's
20
folks
minutes.
that are like my famous last words. I'm going to just do two things. I'm going to say thank you for coming out to the landfill, and thank you for so many of you coming out to join us to honor Jerry. I know that meant a lot to us and the guys in the crew here. And then also thank you to Director McDaniel and to Director Silvera. Both they serve as the YARTS board members for our county. And we were up in Yosemite on Monday with the full board from all 5 counties, talking about some financial sustainability for the and just one of those times where you just appreciate the local support that we get for YARTS, and just wanted to thank them for taking their days to, it's tough, take the day and come up into Yosemite for the day, but the conversation and the topics and the work was hard work. So just want to say thank you.
Item 16, the director's reports, starting with April.
I don't have anything. Thank you. Thank you for having me out here. I've never been out here, so it was exciting.
Lloyd, anything?
Just saying.
Apologize for being late. RCRC got stuck in traffic. We were in Fairfield and over in the ports today. Apologize for being late. And just to clarify my comments earlier. It's not, I don't want the fight anymore. I am just like, this board has been working very good together. And it seems like when there's a point of contention, it gets me frustrated as well because we've been doing such a good job working together and moving forward. So.
No, kind of fighting is kind of fun though, isn't it?
No, it's not.
You were not here.
I like
No.
to
I fight in all my committees. So
You
I
were-
just got back from a fight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's true. City council.
Yeah, just, glad to be here today and participate, and, after election, I'll probably come for a couple of meetings with the new mayor just to get him grounded or her grounded, whoever gets elected. And, we'll move on from there. I certainly would encourage the new mayor to, communicate any really important things. You know, Tom would bring us information about, in general, what was happening in the meeting. This particular event, did not get communicated to us. So, you know, we'll try to work and make sure that the mayor follows through with things that are important. And being that you may have some new board members, I think it would be helpful to stress to those board members that, whatever you approve here, or whatever needs to be brought back to the cities, to express that to them so that they understand that it's not just talked about here, but bring it back to your council, for some input and decision. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks, Steve.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I agree with you there. Happy birthday, Lloyd.
Oh, happy birthday, Lloyd.
Got cookies for you?
Big 6-0 today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought you told me it was 59.
It was yesterday.
If y'all want to line up, we're going to have the birthday spanking.
That's 2 slots each.
I'd like to invite you all on Halloween to Gustine, trunk or treat downtown. It's a lot of fun. Bring the kids, dress up. This year's theme is movies, so that leaves you wide open. And can we get a motion to cap the size of agendas? 541 pages? I didn't go to Ellen Woodhead's bedridden course.
So-
Remember that?
I have no idea what that is. But what we can try to do with council and making sure that on the transparency side, though, is to link as many documents as possible and put a note on the agenda. And so that if you're looking at it on it'll be active links. We just want to make sure.
There'll still be pages to read. Might as well leave it like it is. Silly.
It's hard.
No,
It's important.
a lot of information.
It is.
Just, yeah, tough to get it all digested. But
It's tough to proofread too. But note taken.
Mr. Kale.
Thank you guys for letting us come out here, Marty, Kyle, thank you. That was a very interesting. I look forward to getting the tour next week, so other than that, that's it.
That is one thing that Patrick reminded me when I didn't mention during my report. Just as a reminder, the tour is next Tuesday at 12 here, so.
Lunch provided?
Yes. I'm making eye contact with someone who will tell me yes. Okay, yes.
Leftover cookies? We'll have leftover cookies.
Leftover cookies. All right, sorry.
Yeah, leftover cookies.
Meeting is now adjourned.
All right.
Here.
Right.